Hi, my name's Dawn, and today we're going to be looking at some very interesting legislation called the Western Australian Public Health Act of 2016, which is an act to protect, promote, and improve the health and well-being of the public of Western Australia and to reduce the incidence of preventable illness for related purposes. Now, the sustainability principle and the precautionary principle. If there is a public health risk, lack of scientific certainty should not be used as a reason for postponing measures to prevent, control, or abate that risk. Now, if we're talking about COVID-19, then we're talking about a vaccine. Enforcement. So this is 185 of the Public Health Act, which is relevant under a state of emergency, which is what we currently are under. The enforcement of requirement to undergo medical observation or medical or other procedure. If an emergency officer gives a direction to a person to undergo Section 1841C to undergo medical observation, medical examination, or medical treatment, or to be vaccinated, an emergency officer or police officer may use reasonable force to ensure that that direction is complied with, including, if necessary, to apprehend and detain the person to whom the direction applies, the relevant person, and take the relevant person to a place where the person is required to undergo medical observation, medical examination, or medical treatment, or to be vaccinated in accordance with the direction. To obtain the relevant person at the place where she is required to undergo medical observation, medical examination, or medical treatment, or to be vaccinated in accordance with the direction. So there's lots more information here associated with the quarantine, the review of quarantine to remain in quarantine. They talk about welfare services, other emergency powers that they have, which in regards to breaking and entering into your home if they deem you to be at risk. So just wanted to give you that information. What I find interesting is the Public Health Act, here it is something that I found in relation to the Criminal Code Act of 1995 in relation to the United Nations. Now, the United Nations are our trustees. So they are our overseeing governing body. And this was brought into being after the Second World War, not the First World War, the Second World War. So 71.15, defence, medical or hygienic procedure. A person is not criminally responsible for an offence against Section 71.8 in respect to any sexual penetration carried out in the course of a procedure in good faith for medical or hygienic purposes. Now note, a defendant bears the evidential burden in relation to the matter in this section. So the defendant, if you are charging somebody or with sexual assault, then the burden is on the United Nations officer. So they can say what they like, pretty much. Now, this is where they talk about unlawful sexual penetration. So this is where they talk about it. If a person sexually penetrates another person without the consent of that person, that the other person is a UN or associated person, the UN or associated person is engaged in a UN operation that is not a UN enforcement action, or the first mentioned person knows about or is reckless as to the lack of consent. So this is where alarm bells go off for me. We're looking at the Public Health Act. We're looking at state of emergency, extraordinary powers. We're looking at the United Nations, who are the trustees of Australia, or the Commonwealth of Australia. And you put all that together, and this is what is ahead for all of us. So we must prepare ourselves for what is to come, or the potential of what could come. They've planned it. It's in legislation for over 25 years. So I encourage you to inform yourself, share this information with others, and take action to protect yourself.